dirt road off a 2-lane past a shot up county sign. Squeaking of a backyard screen door letting you know that it's
The Putnam Personalities podcast exists to highlight the good, the positive, and the inspirational in our community. This episode is not an endorsement of any political or religious ideology. This podcast is a simple interview to get to know our friends, neighbors, leaders, and colleagues on a more personal level. Sit back, grab some sweet tea, and enjoy today's interview.
like home to me.
I'm glad to have Mr. Buddy Goddard today on the podcast. And as I start off with every person that comes on here and say this. Here's the deal. We're sitting at a coffee shop and there's people around listening to our conversation. And that's what we're doing. We're inviting people to listen to a conversation between two friends or two people. I know you a little bit. I don't know you 100% well. Like maybe I know some other people, but I've known you for about, I'd say 7 or 8 years now.
Right.
And the first time I met you, you were driving around in a little yellow dune buggy. So I want to ask you, the first question is, where is your dune buggy at? I'm so disappointed.
My dune buggy is over in Daytona Beach Shores.
Okay.
After the last election, I had lost. I lost by 80 votes. And we bought that originally to pull behind my motorhome when our kids were all babies, all little. That way we could set up the motorhome, and if one of the kids was sleeping, or usually like the baby, I had a vehicle that we could run around and check on stuff.
Yeah.
And just get bread and milk, stuff like that. So we had it for that. And then when I ran for office, it was kind of unique to ride around with that. I had to actually build metal plates for the side because the car was fiberglass. So I had to make metal plates for the side to put the like magnet signs on there to vote for Buddy. And so did that, and of course, won the election. So anytime there was a parade or anything like that, we drove it, and we thoroughly enjoyed the car. It was great. But as my kids got older, we didn't use that anymore. Actually, it got where my wife and I enjoyed just going off by ourselves, not taking the kids. And so after the last election, I wasn't a commissioner anymore, and I wasn't really using it that much. I used it to jump in and run up to Publix or Home Depot, and so I just finally put it up for sale. And this couple that bought it, they love this car. They got 2 girls, and they just enjoy the little car. Of course, we named it Kirby, and so they just love Kirby, and they'll send us information every now and then about Kirby.
That's neat.
So that's what happened to little Kirby. He's gone.
Little Kirby.
But we did replace it with a Jeep that I had. My wife enjoys, oddly enough, for somebody who was born and raised here in Putnam County, she didn't. Shortly after we got married, I mentioned about going on a woods ride. She didn't really know what a woods ride was.
Really?
I thought that was unusual. But she now loves a woods ride. We take the Jeep out there, and a lot of times we'll stop and pick up, it doesn't really matter, Chinese, Subway sandwich, anything. And we find us a spot, and we have chairs and a little table in the back, and we pull them out. We have a picnic.
That's neat.
Out there. But it does give her time to wind down. She loves photography. And even though she has a professional camera, 90% of her pictures are taken off of her phone.
Oh.
But
I know.
Yeah,
I know how that goes.
But we'll be riding through the woods, and she amazes me because she can see all these different things that she likes to take a picture of. But I remember this one time where I'm driving, I'm trying to navigate because you're going through, all this stuff. So I'm trying to navigate, and she goes, "Stop." I see a flower, so she jumps out and she takes a picture of this flower, and I'm thinking, typical male. Wow,
it's a flower.
A picture of a flower,
right?
When I saw it, once she got ready to post it on Facebook, there's a bee on the bottom side of that flower that she saw, beautiful flower, and she saw. So it's always cool how somebody sees things differently than you see them.
Yeah.
But she has an incredible eye for just the wildlife photography that she does. And it kind of winds her. I can tell when she's stressed. Let's go for a woods ride. We ride out there, and we come back. She's calmed back down
That's
again.
good. I have a Canon SX50, and I bought this thing years ago. We went to Yellowstone, and I don't know if I should say this out loud. I guess I have to because I'm already in mid-sentence. But I told I said I want to get a camera that I can't say out loud. But anyway, I want to get a camera that zoomed in so tight that I could basically take, I was joking, the backside of a buffalo. I wanted to take because I didn't know what we're going to experience in Yellowstone. And so we get out there and just driving from the airport to Yellowstone, and we see this buffalo, and I'm just like zooming in, and on his backside, I'm like, look, I got the camera I wanted, just kind of joking. His tail was swinging. You see flies everywhere. But anyway, it was really cool. And then, but now I have that camera went, bye-bye. It broke, and I bought another one, same as that camera. I've used it 4 times because my phone is just as handy now, and some of the phones have just almost a good shot, just like a camera does. But we were in Nashville a few weeks ago, and at the zoo, and I was zooming in. I had that camera out. First time I've used it in a long time, and I'm zooming in on some animals, and I saw these people watching my camera. They weren't even looking at the animal; they were looking at the camera because it has such a nice tight zoom on it. But I love that. But I love photography. That's cool. I love woods rides. We went on a woods ride when we first moved here with the kids. Somebody actually stole our van from the church, and a lady in our church let us borrow their car. And so we decided to go for a woods ride one Sunday afternoon, and that was not a good decision because I'd never done that before, and we were using somebody else's car, and sometimes you get in those tight squeezes and you hear, Wee! I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
That branch is like scraping alongside the windows. But anyway, so you've been here, how long have you been in Putnam County?
I started here a long time ago. I just with family that was down here. And I actually said I'd never be back. Met my father-in-law at Georgia Pacific during a turbine shutdown back in 94, I think it was. Anyway, I met my father-in-law there, and I don't know, somehow we just kind of grew into a good relationship. I was a single father. I met his wife, and then they invited me to a cookout with a bunch of people that worked at Georgia Pacific, and a lot of them, a lot of friends that I knew. And in comes driving their daughter, who I did not know was their daughter. Anyway, she come driving in, and she just kind of stole my heart. And we pretty much been together. We started dating. We were married pretty quick. We now have 3 kids. I didn't want any more kids, but
right.
We have 3 of our own.
But you're happy you have 3 of your own now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, raising the big thing was, I was raising my boys by myself,
right?
And so I didn't really want to get married again. I did not want any more children because of how much work that I was having to do, and then but raising my children, and I know this is a good Christian show, so you understand. Raising your children in a Christian environment. I've got Christian in-laws, a Christian wife. Oh yeah, big difference. Don't think you don't come up with some ups and downs, but overall, if you're trying to do this without God in your life, you're going to struggle. Because many times you're going to be going, God, why did He do that? It was always funny because my wife was always because we had the 2 girls and the boy, and she goes, why does He do those things? I have no answers for that one. They just do. Boys do.
I have 4 girls. So I don't really. That's the weird thing. Like we have 4 girls, and it's weird to get around people with boys. I'm like, it's just weird. Like I'm like, did I act like that when I was 4, 5, 8, 12, 14?
Well,
it's funny.
I think the funny part is boys are entertaining from the time they're entertaining until they get up to about here. Then they don't really hang around the parents. They want in their own world. Girls really become interesting when they get about right here. Then the drama really gets going. Now the fun begins, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. All the kids they had their own way. I had twins, by the way, totally different. The only thing they shared was a birthday. They're just totally opposites, still are. They're doing well, but they're both opposites. But I've had the pleasure of having both, but I've heard of those that just had the boys or just had the girls.
But we have 4, and we did not know what we were having at all until the baby was born.
Right.
All 4. So we waited, and I'll say, hey, it's a girl. And then the second time, it's a girl. The third time I was like, oh, it's another girl. The last time I was like, oh, it's another girl, which was fine. But I just said, well, it's okay. Like, we can do the hand-me-down clothes. It'll all be fine. Well, that worked great until, like you said, until they're about that tall. And then when we moved here, they each had their own room. And it was like, all right, you get to pick the color of your room. And this one had a purple room. This one had a light green room. This one had a yellow room. This one had a black room with like lime green trim. I mean, I'm like, they're like totally opposite. All of a sudden, they each have their own little stereo system. And you're like, they all have their own style of music they like. It's just weird because when they get about that big, they develop their own personalities, and they all 4 of them are different. 2 of them are very similar in many ways, but for the most part, they're all very different. Well, hey, I invited you on. The podcast is called Putnam Personalities Podcast, and I realized that a community, which Putnam County is made up of people, and not every person in Putnam County, maybe lives up to the name that we want to carry through in our county, but a lot of people do. And my goal is to find those people and to focus on the positive, the inspirational, and the good in our county. And so I felt like you're one of those people. You are running. I'll show the picture. We're not, and I don't promote. You are running for county commissioner again for District 5. And so that's what your poster looks like. Mm-hmm. So Buddy Goddard, you're considered Republican, Putnam County Commission, District 5. And so I did have you on and we already talked about this. We're not talking politics. If you win, what are you going to do? We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about what you did the first time. That's because that, to me, that's politics. And my goal is to talk about you as a person and to kind of get you to know you on a more personal level. Because what people do in our community, I mean, when someone's elected, they are put in a position to make all these decisions. But before you were elected the first time, and whatever happens the next time, that's between you and the Lord, or whatever. But you are a regular person. You had a regular job. You lived in a community. You go to church. You whatever you did. So that's my goal, is to find out more about you as a person. So you talked about your wife already. I remember the first time I saw her name on Facebook, Sean Dale, and I was like, so I don't know if his name is Sean or is his name Dale. I couldn't remember. I didn't know which one your name was, and I realized it's neither. His name is Buddy, and so I guess her name is Sean. But I've heard you call her Sean Dale before.
Because there is
explain that to me.
Typical Southern girl.
Okay.
Sean Dale, two words.
Okay,
Dale
so
is her middle name.
Oh, so Dale's not like okay.
And it's kind of unique. Her father's middle name is Dale.
Okay.
But her mother was originally going to name her Shondell. Shondell. Okay. But her closest friend also had a daughter born just before she did, and she named her daughter Shondell. Oh. So she's going, well, I'm gonna name her Sean Dale. So, and that's how she goes. She goes by Sean Dale.
Okay, that's cool.
And when I say it, it sounds like one word, but it actually is two words.
So before you moved to Putnam County, you mentioned Georgia Pacific. So did you work at Georgia Pacific?
I was a contractor at Georgia Pacific.
Okay.
I was actually, the company I worked for, I was a project manager. So I did work at Georgia Pacific and different chemical plants and the power plants, and traveled around down at NASA. I did a lot of work down at NASA. So I was just basically, I handled the big projects. Any big project, basically.
So when you say a big project, I mean they're getting a new machine put in, or if they're adding
generally, right.
Like what is it?
If it was going to pull, if it was the largest project normally that had a very short time limit on it, such as at Georgia Pacific, changing out a precipitator, or in this case it was a turbine. Okay. When a turbine goes down, they need that thing back up. So you got to get in there, you get it done, you find all the problems, fix it, and get it back up there and get that thing running, because it's very costly.
Right.
They need to have it running. So
when your TV goes off at home, we stick it by the road and we go get a new one. But somewhere like Georgia Pacific, when the machine goes down, you don't just throw it out by the road and put a new one, plug it in. You would have rewiring, you've got to have upgrades, most likely permitting. So you kind of took care of a lot of those things, I guess.
And it's specialty equipment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. A turbine, for an example, they have all sorts of different size turbines. So a turbine, depending on what it's doing, it could be a power turbine, which most of them are, but whatever it is, that's a specific size turbine. You don't just go get it or have it shipped in.
Right.
It has to be built and brought in there, or in this case, there's blades inside it. There's a whole lot of parts to that that you may have to take it apart, and that's why they have an on-site machine shop there, because sometimes you can take it apart, but even taking it apart is a lot of work to it. Fix it, get it back together, and get it running again, and so it's...
Yeah, I've learned with air conditioning sales, because I sell parts and stuff. One thing I've learned is just something simple, like you go outside, you have your little air conditioner out there, and the little fan blade spinning, and sometimes people come in and say, I need a fan blade, and then you have to measure the size, you have to measure the pitch, and sometimes people don't realize you can't just take a fan blade and put a new one, because that pitch works your motor harder, it draws more amp, it's made to operate under a certain, with a certain fan blade or a certain amp draw. So those things are important. So technical things, I guess, matter to you.
Well, yeah, well, it is, and like I said, most things are specific to that particular environment. So yeah, you have to do that one. So
well, let me ask you, how does that play into the fact? Okay, so you became later on. I guess there's a gap. I'm missing all this, but you became a county commissioner. So how does that fit into, like, because it's totally two different things? But what are some similarities? Like how did you go from this to this? Was there things that you learned here that you're able to apply here, or how does that work together?
Well, honestly, politics was not my strong thing. I took care of these big jobs, and I just went wherever they needed to be done. And like at the case of Georgia Pacific, I could travel back and forth. And of course, my wife, Shondell, she wanted to move back here. I didn't. So prior to that, I had taken a position down at the Space Center. I enjoyed it. We took care of damaged space. Every time a rocket goes up, it damages a launch tower. And so we'd go in. You basically, whatever the damage is, you repair it, and you have to have it back to them on a certain date, because they got another one they're going up. Because what a lot of people don't know, there's a lot of unmanned rockets that go up, and so every time it goes up, you have to take care of this damage. I enjoyed my job. I loved where I lived. It was great. But Shondell, she wanted back here. So she finally talked me into taking a job with the appraiser's office here. So I came back here. We came back here in 2005. Now, what's ironic about that, just telling somebody the other day, give everything to God. And I'm one who prays specific. I just do. I found that best. So when we were moving back here, and I prayed on it, and we're supposed to be back here. I came and I did an interview with Larry Pritchett, was the property appraiser then, and he basically said, "Okay, you sounds good." Well, he called me up here and did a last interview, ready to hire you. This is in June. And I need you to, go take a drug test and start. I said, well, no problem with the drug test, but I'm the guy in charge on this tower. I can't just leave. Everything comes back to me. I'm the one that signs everything. I have to be here until I can hand this back to them on the first week of September. Well, he goes, okay, then we'll start you on the second week of September. I said, okay, great. So that's fine. My wife came up here the following week. She applied at the school board, was hired. So now we have to find a place. So I come back up here and I'm looking for a place to rent. And what do I find? The house that her father built when she was born came available.
Really?
Now, she was kind of against it, and usually we work very well together, but I wanted this house. I really did. I thought, man, this is just so cool. We still have that house. So got it. Of course, we've had to do lots of renovation. Funny, air conditioning and stuff like that, kind of important. But so we still have that house. everything fell in place down there like you just wouldn't believe. The sale, the house we had, we sold it quickly, and not at a loss. We did well. Right. I was going to live in my motorhome. I thought, well, okay, I'll just live in the motorhome and do this. The guy that worked for me, he was redoing his house after a hurricane, and he goes, buddy, if you don't mind, could you pull it here? We can hook it to the electric and the sewer, and then I've got somebody here to keep an eye on the house and the equipment and everything here. And I went, why, certainly. Oh, it gets even better. After, when it was time for me to leave, the man that lived right down the road came up and he says, what are you going to do with the motorhome? I said, well, I don't know. I'll probably take it back. I might sell it. He said, how much do you owe on it? And I told him. And so he came back to me and he says, I'll give you the Sea-Doo as a down payment and I'll take over the remainder of the RV. And I went, okay. So I come back to Palatka, which is, look at the water, the river that we have here, with a Sea-Doo. And so I always joke that God looks out for drunks and idiots and I don't drink. But, you pray and then leave it up to him. And it's amazing how things will work out for you.
Yeah,
but
very good.
That's how we ended up back up here. And politics, I was good at complaining. What are they doing? What are they thinking of? And of course, in the appraiser's office, I got to know more of the officials. And so I was concerned, what are you doing? And then I guess the biggest thing was at the time they were wanting to sell the landfill. And I just could not wrap my head around, why do you want to do that? Why? You're giving up all your rights to that landfill. Somebody else is going to regulate what goes in there. Right now, we regulate that. And so I couldn't get it, and I couldn't get the right answer. And I started going to more meetings and seeing what was going on and get to know more people. And it finally came to the point, you know what? You can sit and complain or you can do something about it. So I ran.
You see people on Facebook, and I won't mention names because that's not how we do things here, but there are people that they always complain about the sheriff's office this, and they won't do this, and they would complain about this and that, and all these. I'm like, but I don't see you with a badge on your chest. I don't see you running for office. You just complain. You're in a drama, but you never do anything about it. And I was taught that if I'm going to complain about something, to have a solution for it. Don't just complain, but come forward and sometimes God will say, hey, you're the solution for this problem. So sounds like that's something you wanted to be. You took that role as, hey, I'll be part of that solution. So, and you won your first time around.
I did. And I'm very proud of what I got done. And a lot of people don't realize what a commissioner does.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you too. I talked right before the podcast. We talked really short, but what's a day as a county commissioner before? And again, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, and that's not what this is about. But what does a day look like in a county commissioner's life? Like, what did you do every day? Obviously, you get up and take a shower. Hopefully, after that, what happens?
Well, it depends because you have scheduled things, and of course, as a commissioner, you're doing things specifically. You have your specific meetings and everything for the county, but you're also, and they don't force you, but they encourage you to be involved in other things throughout, which that's what I was involved with. Ride Solutions, the waterways and trails, even animal care, the Parks and Recreation. I was involved with the Northeast Florida Regional Council. I was both on financial and on the goings-on, which isn't just Putnam County, but it's all the counties that surround us. And we basically would look over what their plans were and things that were coming in there and give our input of what we thought. So it depends. So you'll have this schedule that you need to be in Jacksonville on this day, you're going to be here. And then not every commissioner has to, but I found that I was invited up to Tallahassee several times, and that really is great. If you go to Tallahassee, you get to know these people, which in turn can help and
Now, at the
in
time,
Putnam.
Rick Scott was your governor, right?
Yes,
Or our governor.
right.
Okay.
And I met with Rick Scott several
Okay.
times. Different things that needed to be taken care of here. I've actually got to meet with DeSantis several times. But and basically, and of course, my wife, she was the district aide for Bobby Payne, so that helped with other senators and a lot of other relationships that I just happened to be part of. But as a commissioner back then, those are you have these things that you already have to do, which are scheduled times.
Right.
But then you get a call and there's a problem, in a certain area. You can either just send, let's say it's public, let's say it's rain, and that happened a lot. We get the storms and a road. I get the calls that the road's impassable. Maybe, I don't know. So I would drive out there and take a good look at that road to see if that road was passable, because their term of passable and mine might not be the same thing. It's a little bit more difficult. The wheels spin a little bit, but you can get through it and everything else. I like to go check it out before I stop Public Works from what they're doing, because Public Works is the entire county.
Exactly.
And so I would take the time to ride out there and look at the situation, and then I could give them a better thing. Yes, it does need to be taken care of, but cars can pass on there, so just as soon as you can get to it.
Right.
Now you get out there and it's just not. These people are stuck at the end here and they're not going to get through here. Then you get a hold of Public Works, and this is an immediate. As soon as we can get in here, we need to get this thing.
You find out who's there too. Is it someone elderly that's on oxygen, or ambulatory needs and all that stuff? So, yeah, there's a lot involved. So I can see that. But also, not only do you get involved in those things, you also sometimes you'll have a preacher call and say, "Hey, we're doing a chicken fundraiser. Can you guys help cook some chicken?" Which you've done for us before. You've done that for a fundraiser for our kids. I remember going over to Larry's house in Interlochen, and it was early in the morning, and you guys were out there throwing chicken on the grill, and he had his special spices, and he was doing the emerald bam, and
that's how you.
Yeah, he was doing. I got a video of him doing that. It's like this. And anyway, I still have that video, but anyway, but yeah. So you do that. You're involved with like Rotary. You do something like that as well. So good.
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of people, you're busy. You're raising your kids. You're working your job. You just that takes pretty much all your time, and that's good. Need to spend that time with your kids. It may seem like it's this long, but it's not. That time is a short time. I was always close to my kids. I lost a son. A lot of people don't know that, but after my son's death, I was even worse. You want to go for a bicycle ride? I want to see you. So I wanted more time with my kids, because they do grow up so fast and it's over with. So that's primarily my time. But as I've gotten older, the kids are out on their own. That gave me time to be involved. Always was pretty heavily involved in our church. I'm actually less now. I was a deacon. I'm not now. And our church, my church, Trinity Baptist, is now the last service was 300 people at that service. Shondell does good, but she doesn't if she feels cramped in, she's going to want to go. So,
well, I know some smaller churches that have some room for y'all if you need to.
Well,
switch.
we actually we attend.
I'm just joking.
The church, which is actually the first church we attended right after we got married. We got married, and my in-laws, I went to their church, and we enjoy that church too.
So no, I was just kidding. But I was going to say this. So you talked. One thing that I think is important is whether you're running for politics or not, is to be involved in your community, and you can do that. You can do that through a church. A lot of people, this is not a negative program. We don't go negative, but a lot of people are willing to take resources where resources are available, but they're not willing to help. They're not willing to, when you got too much clothes in your closet, it's okay to take them out and donate them. It's okay to, where you go to get your free food all the time, it's okay to actually help unload a truck or, do things. And so running for office as you're doing, it's good to see that you are involved in the community. Like I said, you're in Rotary. I've seen pictures of Rotary and stuff. So you do that. You do involve yourself with there. What other things do you involve yourself with other than church and Rotary? What other things you get involved with?
Well, I'm still on waterways and trails, which I think is very crucial.
What is that?
Waterways and trails, okay, the bicycle trails
Mhm.
and that we have been building throughout
Mhm.
here. That's one phase.
Okay.
And then the other is our waterways of what we can do to enhance them.
Okay.
But right now, we're in bad need. Eelgrass got taken down, and that's where the fish basically breed and grow. And so we're now involved with protecting that. They're putting in stainless steel cages that protects them because what eats the grass mostly is turtles and manatees.
Yeah.
Now, where manatees were almost gone, they're very strong. I don't know if anybody's been out here to Lake Ocklawaha, but there are a lot of manatees in Lake Ocklawaha because they can survive very well. They don't really have any predators other than a boat,
Right.
and there's not that much activity out there with the boats. Most people fish off the shore. So they're multiplying very good, which isn't so bad out there. The eelgrass in Lake Ocklawaha is superb. That's why wildlife is just astounded out there. But you get into the river. Now the river has some major problems. Okay, number one, and I was an advocate. I'm not trying to get on it for the campaign, but I have been pushing for years to get people off of septic systems and onto sewer systems, especially if you're on that river. That water still leaches back in there. Now, Putnam County, believe it or not, has gotten much better on the amount of pollutants that we were putting into the river. Unfortunately, the river starts way below south of us, so as it comes up through like Volusia County, they're not tackling it near as hard as Putnam County is, and I love the fact that Putnam County is pushing hard to stop the contaminants into the water as it comes on up. But that's our biggest thing is to try and most of the farms, by the way, have gone to environmental safety. All the farms that I'm involved in, they're very careful about their groundwater and everything else,
Right.
so that it does not go
That's
out
good.
there and pollute our river.
Now Lake George is in Putnam County,
Lake
right?
George, part of it's in
Okay.
Putnam and part of it's in Volusia County.
Now, man, I was out on the lake a few years ago now, probably 5 years ago now. We were out on the lake, and there's a man that's hired just to basically catch a certain fish. And he releases this net, and it's like a mile, not literally, but it's a really long net. And then he has to reel that net in, and then that specific fish, he takes it and he tosses it. And basically, it's a fish that is like tearing up the ecosystem and all that. I don't know the whole story behind it, but I thought it was interesting. And he gets paid by the pound of what he catches. And he has to throw the good stuff back in, but that one fish he keeps, and that fish is responsible for eating up a lot of vegetation and bullying other fish and stuff like that. So it's kind of I've never heard of those things until in my 40s learning this kind of stuff. So it's kind of neat to know all that. I didn't know all those things. So.
It could be tilapia because that's not really a native.
Yeah, I don't think it was. It was a fish that, and then once they were caught, like somebody overseas buys them. Like they'll eat them in another country. We won't eat them here. I forget what kind of fish it is.
Well, we eat a lot of tilapia.
Yeah, we eat tilapia.
Here,
so it wasn't tilapia. I forget what it was. But anyway, all that to say, Johnny Morris, he's the I can never remember the name of the stupid store that he owns. Not stupid store. Sorry, it's not stupid, but the my mind just went blank. Anyway, the big Bass Pro Shop, that store. Okay, I guess he just donated a bunch of money.
He did.
Is that the same thing you're talking about? The eel?
Well, what it is,
grass?
That's for helping with the eel grass.
Okay,
right,
that's what I was trying to. All that to say,
because they actually ran short, and so he contributed more money.
Yeah,
but he lives where they're wanting to build. That's going to be major boon to keep that lake in pristine.
Oh yeah.
But our waterways are our life.
Mm-hmm.
Without this,
we talked about that before. So you're drinking Zephyr Hills. I am too. I pour it in my mug here,
right?
Because they're not like an official sponsor or anything. But I love Zephyr Hills water. And then you said your daughter lives up near Knoxville, and you bring her.
My sister did.
Your sister. Sorry, that's right. And you brought her water.
Yep.
But I like Deer Park. You ever heard of Deer Park?
Yep, and
Deer
she
Park,
does.
that's good water.
She didn't really like Deer Park. She still likes Zephyr Hills. So anytime we would go up to visit my sister, we carried cases of Zephyr Hills for her because that's the water. She just preferred that water overall.
Right. So before Putnam County, were you born at?
I actually was born up north, which
okay.
is odd. I didn't realize that until I got older. My mother's family.
It's odd that you were born up north.
Yeah, because I've been here my whole life, so I did not know. And my family actually lives in Hudson, Florida. Most of it.
Oh.
Most of my family lives in Hudson, Florida. Most people don't even know where Hudson, Florida is.
My dad pastors there. That's right.
Oh, really?
That's where I came from before I moved here.
Well, basically, if you go to Hudson, Florida, I would pretty much say almost every Goddard you meet down there is related to me.
Okay.
And a good portion of the Higginbothams. But,
yeah.
That's where my family was from. And so I was born there, raised mostly in Jacksonville.
Okay.
That's a long story there. I can't say that I had the greatest childhood,
okay.
other than I grew up at a good time when we could go to the beach in the woods and play out at the creek and ride our bicycles and stuff like that. But my father and I, for whatever reason, if something went wrong, I immediately was the one he came after. Gotcha. I don't know the whole reason for that one, but it was. And so as I got older, I knew I could see that look in that face, and that meant run, buddy, run. And he'd come back here.
What year did you graduate from high school?
73. Now the odd part about
I wasn't even born then. How old are you? No, don't tell me. That's
in
crazy.
1973. I graduated high school living in a barn, and I know that sounds but actually it was great. My girlfriend at the time, her father was building a house. He wanted somebody to keep an eye on the place down there. He had 2 cows and a horse, and I went, I actually enjoyed it. It was I could study. I was peace and quiet. Might sound funny, but I used to fill up. We had the metal buckets back then. I'd fill up a couple buckets he had a pump well there, and when I got home, it was nice and warm, and I could bathe. And sometimes the lady at the end, her husband was blind, and so they'd stop me and might need a little help. And she'd always say, "I got a plate of food here, and would you like to take a hot shower?" It's like, yeah, yeah. So to me, that was good. I lived a good life. Finished up my school, went up to Tallahassee, lived in Tallahassee. Okay. Did not think I ever wanted to live in a small town. Like I said, John Dale kept on about moving here. Now you wouldn't get me out of here.
At the beginning of the program, you don't hear it, but I'll add it on later. But the song that we play is by an artist by the name Jonathan Lee. He's a young man in his 20s, maybe early 30s, but he's from Middleburg, and he writes a song he wrote the song called "Sounds Like Home." And so at the beginning of the podcast, that's the song I actually play because it reminds me of where we're at. It talks about entering the county, and there's a sign, shot up county sign.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Putnam County with a couple bullet holes in it. Yeah, it's like, that reminds me of our town. But yeah, I didn't grow up I grew up in Hudson. And I didn't grow up in Hudson. Let me back up. Before we moved here, we lived in Hudson for 8-10ish years or something like that. But with that being said, it's not a small town like this either. You're right there on 19, busy highway, and that's a pretty rough area down there. People have talked about our county being rough. I just had one of my teenagers that was at my church at the time. He just got murdered last week. Him, his wife, and his 2 kids, they were all murdered. So and I've had 3 or 4 kids from my youth group die that way since I've been here. So it's a pretty rough area down there. So
I know. I mean, we see relatives, and of course,
but there's nice areas too. But a lot of it's
as the older ones die, the aunts and uncles,
right?
And so it's probably been 20-something years since I've been down to Hudson.
Really?
Yeah. Well, my uncle passed away. So
I love the people there. I got a lot of friends there. Sometimes I when I think about leaving there to come here, I'm thankful God brought us here, but sometimes I wish I could have spent a little bit more time with some of those teenagers we had, because could have steered them a little different direction. But you do what you can do when you're there, and you know, we
You're
all
where
have
you're
the individual
supposed to
will.
be, and
Right. Yeah.
we
Exactly.
don't give it any regrets. But
Exactly.
one of the things here, uh, Putnam County, we might have some faults, okay, but we really don't have as many as people think.
No, we have
When
good timing.
something happens, this community pulls together to take care of their own. You know, when we joke around about family, and that's what our county is, mostly like family. We might pick on each other,
Right.
but when they need help, this community comes together greatly. You know, you brought up earlier about Rotary. I was debating on, I wanted to get involved in something at the time, but I wasn't sure. Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions Club, you know, different things. And I visited, and I came out here to Interlochen. I don't live in Interlochen. I live in town. I live out in the Pinal area, and but of all the Rotaries, and they're all good.
You've been a part of it for a while too.
I have.
It's not just an election year. You've been
No.
You've been there for quite a while.
Right. This Rotary, I think what really got me the most, one is they're close-knit. They care about each other. They care about this community. They live in this community. They did a program called Happy Souls. Happy Souls basically is given shoes to early elementary students who have never had new shoes. And I was just baffled. I could not believe in this day and time there are children living here who have never had new shoes. And then even to the point, and I'm not trying to sound bad, but even to the point is when we're putting these shoes on these kids and they are excited. Oh, they are so excited. We give them socks too. A lot of them have dirty feet when you're putting those on there. And, you know, I may not have been the greatest father. I worked hard to try and get what it was. I mean, you know, like anybody, money's not the most important thing in life, but it's up there with oxygen. You have to have money in today's society to keep the lights on and everything else, groceries and everything goes with it. So I'm working my butt off. My kids had shoes, always had shoes. They always went to the dentist. I mean, there are certain fundamental things that you're going to do for your kids. And then when I find out that, I guess I was naive and that their kids didn't come first, it was hard for me. But that's where I said, okay, I want to be a part of this. And I love being a part of what we get done here. We have given, in the last several years, we have given $38,000 in scholarships to Interlochen High School. I mean, that just amazes me of what we can do, what a small little group can do for our community.
And I've seen you out there. I've seen you because I help chaplain the football team, and I usually go get my water because I don't usually eat food out there because it's after 7 o'clock at night. But I usually go and get water, and you're out there quite a bit cooking hot hamburgers and selling the waters and stuff.
That's
and
right.
So non-election years, which is good.
We run.
I say that a lot because a lot of times I know people. You know, politicians go to church when it's election year. They pray when it's election year. They get involved in things during election year. I get all that, but I like to know people on a more personal level. Like, who are you without an election year? You know, and I appreciate that you're always. And I'm not lifting you up higher than anybody else. I'm just saying I appreciate that I do see you all the time, you know, doing those things. So
it may sound,
appreciate you.
And in one way, yes, I am out there working hard trying to do, but I get a great enjoyment for this. Yeah. What we get done and the money we raise, and then we can give this, you know, what we're being able to do for some of these students. Some of them were breaking that circle. This one didn't go to college. This one didn't go to college. Not that college is the answer, but a lot of people don't even get the opportunity. Right. And so here you got, we have some incredible students out there, and they're wanting to go. Then let's give them that boost. Yeah. Let's give them what we can to help them do it. And what that can do is break that cycle. You know, it's just like having alcoholic parents, or in my case, I had an abusive father. But An alcoholic parent does not mean you're going to be an alcoholic.
Right.
This one can be an alcoholic and say, well, that's because my family drinks.
Right.
This one says, I saw what happens there. I'm not touching that stuff or anything. And the same thing happens for me. Especially my son, let's go back to my boy. My boy, yes, he would anger me. During that moment, never. You just go to your room because I need to sit and think how is the proper way to handle a situation. I think, and I don't know about all men, but I have a tendency, I know that I can immediately get into that point that the anger raises. Well, that's not godly. It's not right. And you take that moment and you pray it down. Discipline is important. How you establish that. Yes. That's.
I think that honestly, this whole conversation we've had, that's the best thing I've heard today, and it's exactly how I know my dad handled. And I tried to do that. I'm not perfect, as you said. You're not either. But if I had a situation with my children, I would always say, all right, go to your room. And then that gives them a chance to cool off. And that gives me a chance to cool off. And then we come together. It's not, time for abuse. It's not like beating a child up. There was times that my kids would get spankings, but it was done not from an angry father. It was done as from a loving father. And we would talk about it, like, all right, so why are you getting it? And here's what happened one time. My daughter, Rochelle, I can't remember what she did now. It was so whatever, but she goes to the room and she calms down because she was crying. I walk in there and said, all right, now, do you know why you're getting a spanking? And she says, no. And I said, well, you did this. And she said, I didn't know that was wrong. I said, how did you not know that was wrong? She's like, you never told me that was wrong. And it dawned on me. I was like, that was like a punch in my head. I was like, here it is. I'm getting ready to punish her for something that I never actually taught her was wrong. And she taught me a lesson. And so I was able to, all right, we diffused it, but I didn't go in there angry and just swinging a switch or whatever, because that never helps. And it just escalates the problem. And so I think it's so wise. And what we would do, my dad would do, he'd go in the room and he'd give us that, that old age line of, this hurts me more than it hurts you. So he would give me the spanking. And then we'd pray about it. And he'd say, all right, Lord, help Jason not to do this again. And I would pray about it. Lord, forgive me. I'm sorry. Help me not to do this again. And, that was the way we handled the punishments at home. And that usually would help diffuse some things. Because like you said, sometimes we get mad, like road rage, and the spurt, sometimes we get that way with our kids too. That's good advice. And I appreciate you sharing that you did that as well. Now, is it okay to ask about your son that passed away?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How old was he? And
he was 20. He died in a car accident.
Okay. And where was that, here in this county?
No, it was actually in Tallahassee.
Okay.
Actually, right in front of Florida State.
Okay.
Ironic.
Was he a student there? Or?
No.
Okay.
No, he just happened to go by, and he wasn't going very fast. I'll throw this in here real quick. They were going, they believe, 35 miles an hour. They were talking. He hit the curb, and the car bounced up, and he actually hit the light pole. The light pole they were at enough speed to trigger the airbag. He did not have his seatbelt on, and the airbag broke his neck.
Wow.
So, I've seen over and over and over people who have survived violent crashes because they wore their seatbelt. It's not the answer of all things, but it is a safety device that is pretty good, which oddly enough was invented by Volvo, and they did not want to market it. They gave it away to all car manufacturers because they felt it was such an important thing. Anyway, I thought that's kind of neat.
That is neat. And I knew this was going to happen. Like I tell you, we'll sit down for an hour. It's usually like a 40. I don't know. I don't even know what time it is, but yeah. Oh, it's almost an hour now. So we've actually gone longer. That's okay. It's no problem. I enjoy talking with you. You're always
you
a
can
good
edit
talk.
it.
Yeah, no, I don't, and that's the other thing too. This is a raw thing. I don't edit anything. I cut out maybe a little bit at the beginning because I'm sitting down, and at the end I'm trying to get up and tripping over the table. I'll edit that stuff out, but the stuff that we talk about, I don't edit anything. It's a raw conversation. I do ask this though, or I always give the opportunity at the end. Anything I asked you or something that you want to ask me is fine too. Anything you want to ask me, anything that you always wondered about or how to get this good looking, or I'm just kidding. Anything you want to ask me before we go?
No, I
Okay.
think I did want to leave though. One of the things that I'm really looking at right now as I'm running for office is the growth that's coming to Putnam County.
Mhm.
Okay, and I'm not talking about a area. I'm
Right.
talking about Putnam County.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not happy with it. And yeah, I understand. Nobody likes change. We just
Right.
don't. We just don't. It's our human nature. However, you can't fault them. This is, to me, and I probably sound biased, this is the most beautiful county in Florida. We have everything. Do you want to go to the beach? It's right down the road. You want to go to the forest? It's right over here. You can take a short drive and go see the Alhambra Dinner Theater in Jacksonville. Come back home here. We love our ruralness, is why we all live here.
Right.
We have a beautiful county with beautiful people that really care. And like anything, it's got some problems. But you want to look at problems? Look at Chicago. Look at some of these other places. We are very blessed with what we have here, and we're very blessed with the people that are here, so you can't fault them for moving here. So try to be patient with our new family that will be moving here.
But with our new families too, I will say, because I gotta push back just a little bit on that, but not a whole lot, because I agree 100%. But one thing I've seen a lot of lately is people starting to complain about, well, our road this, there's kids riding up and down on four-wheelers. Well, hold on a minute. You move to a rural community. That's what this community is. In fact, when you come through Green Cove and you hit the Putnam County sign, I forget exactly what it says, but it talks about we're an outdoor friendly community.
That's right.
That's where you live. And so coming from out of state or whatever, you have to realize that, we don't have all the roads paved, but there's a reason for that too. And not necessarily money could be one of the reasons, I get it. But we are a rural community. And so when you're moving here, I'm sorry that you went online and thought that was a good price for your acre and you got here and there's no well, there's no electricity. But that's the way life is here. I mean, it does cost a little bit more to get started here. I agree with that. But anyway, no, I agree. I'm not pushing back like in an argumentative way, but I'm saying I've seen a lot of people complain about moving here too. So we're complaining about some people moving here because we're getting busier, but then people are complaining again, well, they don't have this, they don't have that. Like, well, we don't have all these, we need more restaurants out here in Interlochen. Why? This is our small town. We don't mind a small town. So
well,
I don't anyway.
I guess on both of those right there, because I was a commissioner in most of my area is rural. So if you're wanting to pave this road, what we do is we basically go see the people. You'd be surprised. These 5 people want it paved. These 25 don't want it paved. And so if you're doing what's right for the people, you're not going to pave the road. And then I was a big advocate, still am, of connecting roads. One of the roads that I pushed really hard on was Springside Cutoff. And I know people at that time, I had part of Barden at that time. And they're going, why would you pave that dirt road? Well, if you're familiar with that road, unfortunately, we have a lot of accidents at Barden and 100. 100 is a very dangerous road. We have accidents, and sadly, a lot of them are fatalities. Okay, when that happens, that whole area is shut down. So if I have a heart attack or something back in here, I can't get the rescue unit in it if this road is in bad shape. So I pushed to get that road paved. And I mean, it may sound weird, but we need to have a secondary road that we can take our equipment down in the case of emergency. Now, like out in the forest, we finally got a lot of that approved on the main road there, 62. So it's not paved. They don't want it paved, but at least it has lime rock on it. But if you and I lived out in the forest and you had a heart attack, I can get you in my 4-wheel drive and get you to the rescue unit. Right. Whereas we couldn't get that rescue unit down to your house. So
my favorite was when I used to help out I was the vice president, I guess, at Babe Ruth for a while in Interlochen. And everybody would come out there and be grumbling because just driving off of 20 or driving off of 315 to get to Babe Ruth field, it was like, I mean, you'd get there and your kids are, had headaches from shaking so bad, but they finally paved those roads. That was so nice. I enjoyed that. I don't like those big speed bumps they have going down towards 20, but Anyway, well, I
Well,
appreciate you
paved
coming
roads-
on here.
I wanted to cover that real quick.
Yeah.
Paved roads, a lot of people don't realize that a normal paved road is almost $500,000 a mile.
Hmm.
That's one reason they don't just
Right.
get done. There's a whole lot to paving
Oh yeah.
that road. But people do move here for the ruralness, and then they want to change
Right.
it. But they need to be thankful for what we have.
Yeah.
We really have it. And those that think we need to have a restaurant in Interlaken, those lots are available. And
Then put one there.
let me tell you, it's a lot of work.
We have a Taco Bell coming.
Yes, we do. There's going to be more
I
coming.
said we've had a Taco Bell coming.
Well, it's
for
coming.
forever.
There will be inevitably more. The biggest holdup that Interlaken has is the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Infrastructure is not there. A lot of businesses don't want to open up when they have to put in a well and septic system. They
Right.
want to be able to tie on to city water and
Yep.
city sewer. I didn't make the rules. I just
Yeah, I
know
understand
that's what their businesses are waiting on.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, there was no gotcha questions. It was a simple conversation. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it.
And I get to know more. I'm excited. I get to know more about you today. Things I didn't know. I didn't know you worked for NASA. I was kidding, but no, you did. But that was really cool. I didn't know.
Yeah,
all those things,
I was one of those that did not have that fancy office. I actually
Right.
worked out there with a
Yeah.
hard hat. You know?
I got you. But no, that's really neat though. I didn't know all that stuff about you, so I learned a lot. All right. Well, I guess that's the end of our conversation, and we'll have other. I know you have people that you're running against, and those people will have. I know I'm actually next Monday having one of them will be here where you're sitting, have the same type of conversation.
Good.
And I'm not pulling for either sides or anybody. I'm pretty partial.
I think you were. I don't think you had
and
anything
no,
that was basically
no
fired
agenda.
at that was really political, even
Yeah.
though I'm running for political office.
Yeah,
It's-
no, that's our
just
goal. It's not
who-
religious, it's not political. But I realize politics and religion are part of your life. It's going to be brought up, but it's, I'm not here to correct you in what your way of thinking is or either way. So I enjoy
well,
it. So
you're not supposed to.
exactly. That's what
You love
what,
everybody for where they are.
That's what proper journalism should be, by the
Well,
way.
that is right. That's kind of gone to the
Yeah,
side.
exactly. Appreciate you.
I appreciate
All
it.
right, well, have a good day.
You
and
too.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
All right, God bless.